okay? The point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
You make a big deal out of something, I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
January 20th, 2021, Washington, D.C. A woman stands before the nation, hand raised, ready to make history. I, Kamala Debbie Harris, do solemnly swear.
Most importantly, thank you for what you do for our country.
The first woman, the first Black American, the first South Asian American to serve as Vice President of the United States. But this wasn't luck. This wasn't chance. This was a lifetime of breaking barriers that were never meant to be broken.
I knew what it was going to mean for the country. I was going to say for the family. And that's how I felt for the country.
From the daughter of immigrants to the second highest office in the land, this is the story of a woman who refused to accept limits. October 20th, 1964, Oakland, California. The civil rights movement is at its peak. America is changing, and in Berkeley, 2 graduate students are falling in love while fighting for that change. Her mother, Shyamala Gopalan, traveled alone from Chennai, India at age 19 to pursue her doctorate in nutrition and endocrinology at UC Berkeley. Her father, Donald Harris, came from Jamaica to study economics at Berkeley, eventually becoming a prominent Stanford professor. They met at a civil rights march, united by a vision of justice, united by a refusal to accept inequality. By the time Kamala was born, she was already being pushed in a stroller to protests and rallies. Her first words weren't just mama or dada. They were absorbing the chants of freedom and justice that surrounded her childhood. Kamala Harris once said, "My mother would tell us, don't just sit around and complain about things, do something." When Kamala was 7, her parents divorced. Shyamala raised Kamala and her younger sister Maya as a single mother, working as a breast cancer researcher while instilling fierce independence in her daughters. "You may be the first to do many things," Shyamala told them. "Make sure you're not the last." At 12, the family moved to Montreal, Canada, where Shyamala accepted a teaching position at McGill University. There, teenage Kamala organized a protest when her building prohibited children from playing on the lawn. She went door to door, gathered signatures, confronted management, and won. Her mother smiled and said, "You're going to be a lawyer." 1982. Kamala enrolled at Howard University, a historically Black university in Washington, D.C. At Howard, she found her voice. She joined Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, debated in political science classes, and discovered her calling. "Howard taught me that I could be anything," she later said, "that my Blackness was a strength, not limitation." In 1986, she graduated with a degree in political science and economics. Next stop, law school. The prosecutor who chose justice. 1989. Kamala Harris graduates from UC Hastings College of Law and faces a choice. Her friends and family question her. Why would you become a prosecutor? Why would you join the system? But Harris had a different vision. She believed change happens from within. "I wanted to be at the table where decisions were being made," she explained. "I wanted to fight for victims who had no voice." In 1990, she joined the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, specializing in prosecuting child sexual assault cases. These were the hardest cases. Children who'd been violated, families destroyed, trauma that would last lifetimes. Harris fought relentlessly for them. Colleagues described her as an able prosecutor on the way up, someone who combined compassion with toughness. 2003. Harris ran for San Francisco District Attorney, a long-shot campaign against 2 better-known opponents. She differentiated herself with bold ideas: creating a hate crimes unit focused on protecting LGBT youth, establishing environmental crimes prosecution, launching Back on Track, a program giving first-time drug offenders education and job training instead of prison. She won with 56% of the vote, becoming the first woman and first black person elected DA of San Francisco. 2004. Just months into her tenure, Officer Isaac Espinoza was killed in the line of duty. The city demanded the death penalty, police unions, Senator Dianne Feinstein, even the victim's family. But Harris had campaigned against capital punishment. She believed it was applied unequally, disproportionately affecting people of color. She refused to seek the death penalty. The backlash was fierce. Police unions turned against her. Feinstein publicly rebuked her. Some said her career was over. But Harris stood firm. "I will not compromise my values for political convenience," she declared. Her Back on Track program became a national model, reducing recidivism rates for first-time drug offenders from 54% to less than 10%. Harris ran for California Attorney General, overseeing the largest state justice department in America. She won by less than 1%, but she won. The first woman, the first black person, the first South Asian American to hold the position. And she got to work. During the 2008 foreclosure crisis, banks offered California a settlement of $4 billion. Harris called it crumbs on the table. She walked away from the deal. Banks threatened. Critics said she was being unrealistic. But Harris held out and ultimately secured $20 billion for California homeowners. Thousands of families kept their homes because she refused to settle for less than they deserved. Senator Harris, asking the tough questions. 2016. Kamala Harris set her sights higher. The United States Senate. She won in a landslide, becoming only the second black woman ever elected to the Senate. January 2017. She was sworn in, joining a body that had seen only 11 black senators in its entire 228-year history. And she didn't waste time being polite. June 2017. The Senate Intelligence Committee. Harris questioned Attorney General Jeff Sessions about Russian interference in the 2016 election. Her questions were sharp, relentless, prosecutorial. Sessions looked uncomfortable. "Your questioning makes me nervous," he admitted. Then Senator Richard Burr interrupted. "The chair is going to exercise its right to allow the witness to answer the question." Critics called it sexist. Male senators routinely interrupted witnesses without being silenced. But Harris wouldn't be intimidated. The phrase, "nevertheless, she persisted," became a rallying cry. 2018, the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court confirmation hearings. Harris questioned the nominee about whether he'd discussed special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation with anyone at a specific law firm. Kavanaugh stammered, deflected, couldn't or wouldn't answer directly. The moment went viral. It showcased Harris's prosecutorial precision and her refusal to accept evasive answers. Throughout her Senate tenure, Harris championed maternal health care, fought hunger, worked on bipartisan election security, and pushed for criminal justice reform. She was building a national profile, and people were watching. Vice President Harris, making history. August 2020. The nation is in crisis. A pandemic, economic collapse, racial justice protests. Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee for president, makes his choice for vice president. Kamala Harris, the first black woman, the first South Asian woman, the first woman of color on a major party ticket. November 7th, 2020. Biden and Harris win the election. Harris stood before a cheering crowd and said, "While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last, because every little girl watching tonight sees that this is a country of possibilities. January the 20th, 2021. Kamala Devi Harris became the 49th Vice President of the United States, the highest-ranking woman in American history, standing on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, and countless others who paved the way. As Vice President, Harris got to work immediately. She cast a record-breaking 33 tie-breaking Senate votes, more than any VP in nearly 200 years. Her deciding vote passed the Inflation Reduction Act, the largest climate investment in American history. She presided over the historic confirmation of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman on the Supreme Court. After the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, Harris became the administration's leading voice on reproductive freedom. She launched the Fight for Reproductive Freedoms Tour, visiting 36 states. In March 2024, she became the first president or vice president in history to visit a Planned Parenthood clinic. The government should not be telling women what to do with their bodies, she declared repeatedly. She traveled to 21 countries, met with over 150 world leaders. She represented the United States at the Munich Security Conference, standing with Ukraine against Russian aggression. She addressed climate change at COP28, announcing $3 billion in climate aid for developing nations. The Biden-Harris administration invested $17 billion in historically black colleges and universities, more than any administration in history. Harris personally hosted HBCU students at the White House, mentoring the next generation. Together, the Biden-Harris administration created 16 million jobs, cut child poverty in half by expanding the child tax credit, capped insulin at $35 per month for seniors. They passed the first major gun safety legislation in 30 years, the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. They invested in roads, bridges, broadband internet, and clean water through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Critics have questioned whether she accomplished enough, whether she could have done more. But the data speaks clearly. Record job creation, historic investments in infrastructure and climate, groundbreaking Supreme Court appointments, and restored international alliances. The 2024 campaign, 107 days, July 2024. President Biden's poor debate performance raises concerns about his age and ability to run again. Pressure mounts. The nation watches. Uncertainty spreads. July 21st, 2024. Biden makes a historic decision. He withdraws from the race and endorses Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has 107 days to run for President of the United States, shortest presidential campaign in modern history. She raises over $1 billion, holds massive rallies, wins the Democratic nomination in August. The first black woman, the first South Asian woman to lead a major party ticket. Her campaign focused on protecting reproductive freedom, expanding the middle class, combating climate change, and defending democracy itself. She faced attacks on her record as a prosecutor, questions about her readiness, doubts about whether America was ready for a woman president. November 5th, 2024. America voted, and Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump. In her concession speech, Harris told young people, "Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power." She didn't win the presidency, but she shattered expectations, defied doubts, and proved that a black woman could compete at the highest level. The legacy continues. Kamala Harris didn't become the first woman president, but she became the first woman vice president, the first black woman on a major party ticket, and millions of little girls saw themselves in her. She won a $20 billion settlement for homeowners, created programs that reduced recidivism, fought for reproductive freedom and gun safety. She cast tie-breaking votes that passed historic legislation. She represented America on the world stage with strength and dignity. Her mother, Kamala, passed away in 2009 from breast cancer, never seeing her daughter become vice president. But she knew. She always knew. "You may be the first to do many things," she told Kamala. "Make sure you're not the last." Kamala Harris proved that barriers can be broken, that a daughter of immigrants can rise to the second highest office in the land, that skin color doesn't determine destiny, that gender doesn't define limits. She won't be the last woman in that office. She won't be the last black person. She won't be the last Asian American, because she went first. Who inspires you to break barriers? Share your story in the comments. Subscribe for more stories of courage, resilience, and leadership.